The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is an independent agency of the United States government responsible for consumer protection in the financial sector. Its jurisdiction includes banks, credit unions, securities firms, payday lenders, mortgage servicing operations, foreclosure relief services, debt collectors, other financial companies operating in the United States, and virtual currencies. The CFPB's creation was authorized by the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, whose passage in 2010 was a legislative response to the financial crisis of 2007-08 and the subsequent Great Recession. Overview: according to Director Richard Cordray, the Bureau's most pressing concerns are mortgages, credit cards and student loans. It was designed to consolidate employees and responsibilities from a number of other federal regulatory bodies, including the Federal Reserve, the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the National Credit Union Administration and even the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Bureau is an independent unit located inside and funded by the United States Federal Reserve, with interim affiliation with the U.S. Treasury Department. It writes and enforces rules for financial institutions, examines both bank and non-bank financial institutions, monitors and reports on markets, as well as collects and tracks consumer complaints. Furthermore, as required under Dodd-Frank and outlined in the 2013 CFPB State Supervisory Coordination Framework, the CFPB works closely with state regulators in coordinating supervision and enforcement activities. The CFPB opened its website in early February 2011 to accept suggestions from consumers via YouTube, Twitter, and its own website interface. According to the United States Treasury Department, the Bureau is tasked with the responsibility to promote fairness and transparency for mortgages, credit cards, and other consumer financial products and services. According to its website, the CFPB's central mission is to make markets for consumer financial products and services work for Americans whether they are applying for a mortgage, choosing among credit cards, or using any number of other consumer financial products. History: in July 2010, Congress passed the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, during the 111th United States Congress in response to the late 2000 recession and financial crisis. The agency was originally proposed in 2007 by Harvard Law School professor Elizabeth Warren. The proposed CFPB was actively supported by Americans for Financial Reform, a newly created umbrella organization of some 250 consumer, labor, civil rights and other activist organizations. On September 17, Obama announced the appointment of Warren as special advisor to set up the Bureau. The Bureau began operation on July 21, 2011, shortly after Obama announced that Warren would be passed over as director in favor of Richard Cordray, who prior to the nomination had been hired as chief of enforcement for the agency. As Ohio Attorney General from 2009 to 2011, Cordray won $2 billion in settlements from financial companies. Dispute over director. Elizabeth Warren, who was special consultant in charge of implementing it, was removed from the running for director after Obama administration officials became convinced she could not overcome strong Republican opposition. On July 17, former Ohio Attorney General and Ohio State Treasurer Richard Cordray was selected over Warren as the head of the entire CFPB. However, his nomination was immediately in jeopardy due to 44 Senate Republicans vowing to derail any nominee in order to encourage a decentralized structure to the organization. Senate Republicans had also shown a pattern of refusing to consider regulatory agency nominees, purportedly as a method of budget cutting. Due to the way the legislation creating the Bureau was written, without a director the agency is not able to write new rules or supervise financial institutions other than banks. On July 21, Senator Richard Shelby wrote an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal affirming continued opposition to a centralized structure, noting that both the Securities Exchange Commission and Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation had executive boards and that the CFPB should be no different. He noted lessons learned from experiences with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac as support for his argument. Politico interpreted Shelby's statements as saying that Cordray's nomination was dead on arrival. Republican threats of a filibuster in the Senate to block the nomination in December 2011 led to Senate inaction. On January 4, 2012, Barack Obama issued a recess appointment to install Cordray as director through the end of 2013. This was a highly controversial move as the Senate was technically in pro forma session, and the possibility existed that the appointment could be challenged in court. The constitutionality of Cordray's recess appointment came into question due to a January 2013 ruling by the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit that Obama's appointment of 3 members to the NLRB violated the Constitution. On July 16, 2013, the Senate confirmed Richard Cordray as director in a 66-34 vote. Proposed amendments. On July 11, 2013, the CFPB Rural Designation Petition and Correction Act was introduced into the House of Representatives. The bill would amend the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act to direct the CFPB to establish an application process that would allow a person to get their county designated as rural for purposes of a federal consumer financial law. One practical effect of having a county designated rural is that people can qualify for some types of mortgages by getting them exempted from the CFPB's qualified mortgage rule. On September 26, 2013, the Consumer Financial Protection Safety and Soundness Improvement Act of 2013 was introduced into the United States House of Representatives. If passed, the bill would modify the CFPB by transforming it into a 5-person commission and removing it from the Federal Reserve System. The CFPB would be renamed the Financial Product Safety Commission. This bill is also intended to make it easier to override the decisions that the CFPB makes. On February 7, 2014, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor announced that H.R. 3193 would be on the House schedule for February 11 or 12, 2014. Regulatory activities, credit cards, mortgages, regulatory implementation regarding mortgages is covered on the Bureau website. Topics provided for consumers include, 2013 Mortgage Rule Implementation, resources to help people comply, quick reference charts, supervision and examination materials, and a link for feedback. It also provides additional information that covers rural or underserved counties, HUD-approved housing counselors, and Appendix Q. Appendix Q relates to the debt-to-income ratio that must be possessed for qualified mortgages, and provides details about how to determine the factors for that calculation. The standard is set at no more than 43%. Retirement investments. The CFPB is weighing whether it should take on a role in helping Americans manage retirement savings and regulate savings plans, particularly focusing on investment scams that target the retired and elderly. FATA Euro unregistered trademark S. One of the things we Euro unregistered trademark have been exploring and are interested in terms of whether and what authority we have a Euro, Bureau Director Richard Cordray said in a January 2013 interview. Some conservatives have been critical of this potential role, with William Tucker of the American Media Institute asserting that the agency intends to control retirement savings and force people to buy federal debt. The AARP has encouraged the agency to take an active role, arguing that the Bureau will help protect elderly Americans from affinity fraud that often targets senior citizens, ensuring that their investments are less likely to be stolen through securities fraud or malpractice. Public outreach. The CFPB has created a number of personal finance tools for consumers, including Ask CFPB, which compiles plain language answers to personal finance questions, and Paying for College, which estimates the cost of attending specific universities based on the financial aid offers a student has received. The CFPB has also attempted to help consumers understand virtual currencies such as Bitcoin. List of directors of the CFPB. Parties: AAAA a Democratic, AAAA a Republican. Status: Legal challenges. A lawsuit filed on June 21, 2012, by a Texan bank along with the Competitive Enterprise Institute, challenged the constitutionality of provisions of the CFPB. 1 year later, in August 2013, a federal judge dismissed the lawsuit because the plaintiffs had failed to show that they had suffered harm. A lawsuit filed July 22, 2013, by Morgan Dreeksen Integrated Systems, a provider of outsourced administrative support services to attorneys, and Connecticut attorney Kimberly A. Pasinski, challenged the constitutionality of the CFPB. The complaint, filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, alleged that the CFPB's structure insulates it from political accountability and internal checks and balances in violation of the United States Constitution. Unbridled from constitutionally required accountability, CFPB has engaged in ultra-vires and abusive practices, including attempts to regulate the practice of law, attempts to collect attorney-client protected material, and overreaching demands for, and mining of, personal financial information of American citizens, which has prompted a Government Accountability Office investigation, commenced on July 12, 2013. That October, this case was dismissed by a D.C. federal court. On August 22, 2013, 1 month after Morgan Dreeksen's lawsuit, the CFPB filed its own lawsuit against Morgan Dreeksen in the United States District Court for the Central District of California, alleging that Morgan Dreeksen charged advance fees for debt relief services in violation of the telemarketing sales rule and engaged in deceptive acts and practices in violation of the Consumer Financial Protection Act. See also: Financial crisis of 2007 (2010), list of financial regulatory authorities by country, regulatory responses to the subprime crisis, subprime mortgage crisis solutions debate, Wall Street reform, Title 12 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Volcker Rule, references. Further reading: Holding the CFPB Accountable, Review of the First Semi-Annual Report, Hearing before the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, United States Senate, 112th Congress, 2nd Session, January 31, 2012. The Semi-Annual Report of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Hearing before the Committee on Financial Services, U.S. House of Representatives, 112th Congress, 2nd Session, September 20, 2012. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau a unregistered trademark S Semi-Annual Report to Congress, Hearing before the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, United States Senate, 113th Congress, 1st Session, April 23, 2013. External links: consumerfinance.gov, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in the Federal Register.